Welcome to the Performance Matters Podcast with your hosts, Matrix Ferreira and Miles Methner, brought to you by Iron Performance Center.
All right, everyone, we are back for the Performance Matters Podcast. All three of us here, Matrix, Miles, and Coach Aiden. We are on episode 52. So for those that have been listening for the last year, that means we haven't missed an episode each week. So we've been 52 weeks straight. This is the, I guess, if you call it the last episode of season one, if you want to call it that. But first, big shout out to our sponsor, Pete Method Photography, the premier sportsographer in the Niagara region. He can be reached at www.petemethodphotography.com. As always, support local. So really, for this episode, episode 52, I guess it just comes down to reflecting on the consistency of what started off as just, I guess, a project over a year ago now, where we were thinking about this for some time. I think if you guys actually watched the pilot episode, it was in the boardroom. We didn't have the studio like it is now. We just threw the equipment on the table and just said, "Fuck it, we'll run it." But yeah, we started off talking about this for a long time. Kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. But we just took messy action, and here we are, a full year later, 52 episodes later. And many more to come. And hopefully we have, continuing some awesome guests. I know our next couple episodes are lined up, some pretty heavy hitters. So we're excited to talk about that. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add over the last 52 episodes. That's, unique.
I don't know if it's unique, but I think it's just another example or representation of, like, we're always preaching consistency to our clients. Consistency in their process, their training process, right? Finding a way instead of making excuses. Like, we've had days where, like, we've had to maybe stay late on a Thursday to film an episode just for the sake of not missing it, or knowing we're going to be busy for the next couple of weeks, so having to get ahead of it. So I think it's just another example of kind of practicing what we preach in that regard and applying that same principle to kind of everything we do, with this being another example.
It doesn't have to be fancy. Like, sometimes you just come in here really not even knowing exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Just come in here and talk. Like, I think that's some of our best performing episodes is where you come in here and talk. Don't even know what the exact game plan is, but those turn out to be some of the best conversations. Honestly, it doesn't really feel like a year to me.
Yeah, that's I would agree 100%. Yeah, totally true.
Like 52 episodes, like that's crazy. A whole year podcast already, like
yeah.
I don't know.
we haven't missed a week yet.
Yeah,
we haven't missed a week yet. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't missed a week. It's evolved, it's been fun to watch. Like we built the studio out for it. We've had some great guests, especially earlier on too. We had some phenomenal guests, which really, like, we're a small podcast to begin with, so you don't think you're gonna have a ton of, I don't know what people want to see in terms of heavy-hitting names, but we try to always provide insight and provide some value for anyone that's listening, whether you're an athlete, whether you're just someone trying to stay healthier, get in shape, whatever that might mean for you, whatever your North Star is for your performance and fitness goals. So we always try to provide, I think, some insight both from ourselves, but also from outside counsel, right? Like bringing on coaches, bringing on recruiters, bringing on, doctors in nutrition, bringing on Olympians, like, it's crazy to see how we've just tried to bring in all these different sources of information with different perspectives, different points of view, and just, pick their brain. Like, here's some of the things that they're working on. Here how they're helping people might work for them, and like maybe some of the common issues that we all kind of battle against together, and see how we overcome them. So I think it's been a fun ride, and it goes back to, like you said, the consistency of it. Like, there's been days where I'm sure a lot of our athletes don't feel like training. They don't feel like showing up. They have school, people have work, they have maybe kids at home, they have family things going on. There's always things going on. Like, that's just how, life works, right? It's chaotic, but still finding a way, right? Finding a solution, not defaulting back to I can't because, and whatever that reason might be, as valid as that reason might be for not doing something, they're still finding solutions to how can I, right? Which is exactly what we preach to all of our young athletes, especially. But I think we kind of uphold that rule ourselves, uphold that standard essentially. There's been days where, like, damn, we have to, like, kind of get this done. We have to chop this up. We have to create this or edit that. And we've always found a way to get it done. Like, it always gets done on time. We always make sure that we're setting aside the time now to do it, and we're trying to line things up better. And the best part is we're just learning as we go. Like, we're still figuring things out as we go. I think we're gradually honing the podcast to something, I think, pretty cool. I'm excited to see really what direction it goes, and what other guests might pop on. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? And I think we have some fun ideas. I think we were talking about in the summer, like a porch podcast. Like,
They're pretty cool.
Hanging out outside.
I gotta find
Live
those
audience.
windscreens. Yeah, I gotta find those windscreens, and I think it's worth a try for
Maybe a
sure.
live studio audience one day, huh?
Or just I would just hit the laugh track with my foot here. And we'll just lie to people.
We'll just laugh at it where you just say, ah.
just line the table up in the middle of the gym floor and just have people sit there.
All right, everybody be quiet. Be quiet while we're talking.
Yeah.
just hold have like the sign up.
Yelling in the mud.
Just fucking have someone hold the sign up like laugh funny damn things, like say something hilarious, ask questions. That'd be kind of fun. I think we were playing around with the idea of like maybe an Instagram live episode or something like that. But all right, well we have a couple segments we're gonna try to get through, and I think this could be a fun one. So first segment, we'll call it the 90-day rule. So you have 90 days. Let's say we're taking over a university program, right? Let's say we're taking over a team. Let's say you're in charge of a university varsity team. 90 days. What's the first thing, Aiden, you'd look at if you're taking over a program tomorrow?
I would say the history of progression. I want to see where they started and where they're at right now. I want to see where I can keep developing them. If there's any shortcomings in what they've done, like let's say they've been on the same lift for 3 months, 4 months. If they're struggling with that, I want to see why they're struggling with it and how they're not progressing it, how I can get them to progress it if it needs to be progressed. And I want to see really what the main goal of the program has been.
Okay. So how would you progress? Let's say you have 90 days. So then what does that look like in the coming months?
You mean like as a whole or individual?
As a whole, like 90 days. Like what's the first thing you're doing, and then how you're progressing it, and then how are you going to know if it works or doesn't work?
I want to see, well, first of all, what their schedule is like. Like if they're able to maintain a certain schedule, if they've actually been getting their lifts in. Do I see every lift recorded? Yes?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to see like if they've actually been recording lifts, first of all, if they're really giving a shit about the program. As far as progressing goes, really like there's a standard series of progression with certain lifts, but it really come down to what the goal of it would be. If they're working on jumps, for example, like I want to see, all right, have they started off with the basic fundamental of jump, and has that improved at all? Like if they're going from if they're just jumping a body weight on the floor straight up and down, they're going to loaded jumps, they're jumping onto box, they're doing loaded broad jumps, maybe a resisted broad jump. If they are actually progressing these lifts, how can I keep that going if they're going to the next step?
Okay, what would you do?
So my first thing, if I was brought on as a say to be the strength coach of a new team, is I would have, if it made logistical sense, I would have entrance interviews. And I would try to sit down with each athlete if it was feasible, or at least the team as a group, at least. First and foremost, get to know everybody's name. That's going to be the most important thing. Like, we just had a new soccer team last week, and by the end of the lift, they were saying to both yourself and myself, like, I think you guys already know all our names. And, like, I kind of facetiously, but also true, I said, well, because we give a shit. Right? So my first thing would be I would learn everybody's names. Kind of to Aiden's point, I would reflect with them on what they've been doing, what they thought was working, what they enjoyed, and then what they thought can be improved upon. Because I think if you go in there and you just kind of drop your fists on the table and say, my way or the highway, this is how we're doing things, more often than not, it's probably not going to be well received. So I think even if I took all their feedback and I didn't really apply much of it, at least they would feel heard. And if I had a different direction I wanted to go with the program, I could say, okay, well, here's why, right? So it would be an entrance interview with each athlete, ideally, or the athletes in a group if it was a massive team, obviously, depending. Then I would also meet with the coach and say, okay, what does your vision look like for the team? And then how does my own personal preferences and principles line up with that? And that's probably how I would design the program, first and foremost, because if we don't have buy-in from the athletes, it's not going to matter what the fuck I write on the team builder, on a piece of paper, Excel, whatever. It's not going to matter, right? So because we've always said, like, within reason, as long as it's safe, a little bit, say, worse program with incredible effort and execution is going to get better results than what I think is a perfect program, but I have no buy-in, so the outputs by the athletes are just not there. So I need them to feel valued. I need them to feel heard and seen, so to speak. And how I would do that first would be those entrance interviews. And then what would I measure over time? It would be a lot of things. So kind of like Aiden said, I'd be looking at different metrics depending on the sport, what we're training for, with attendance being the biggest one. So if it's a university team and it's like, okay, say 2 scheduled team lifts a week and then 2 that you have to get on your own, of course I'd be checking in on the attendance of those 2 that aren't quote-unquote mandatory. They're all mandatory, but the ones that aren't organized as a team, so to speak, that would be a big one. Would be outside of just the jumps, the sprints, the whatever may be, the body mass, whatever. would also obviously be attendance. And then I'd be looking for feedback throughout from, again, both the sport coach and then the athletes on how they feel everything's going. Fortunately, and hopefully, I think the numbers would speak for themselves, because I think, we're all pretty good at doing this this job. But nonetheless, that's where I would start first and foremost. Make them feel heard, seen, cared about, and that would be by simply getting to know their names.
Yeah, I think a couple points that you touched on, I think that get pretty much glazed over, which is, if you had the opportunity, I think interviewing them and just nothing else, even just like a group thing. Like,
as I said, even if it's a team meeting.
Yeah, it's just being like, hey, I'm here to help. Like, essentially just kind of reaffirm the fact, listen, you guys do your thing. You have your coach. Like, I need you more than you need me. I'm just here to be the guy in the passenger seat, right? You guys have the gas pedal. You guys are the steering wheel. You dictate the direction you guys want to go. I'm just the GPS trying to point us in a better direction to get there at some points. And you're right. Like, let's find out where they were, right? Let's see what's been working for them, what they enjoyed, what they didn't enjoy. And, like, those small things, might seem mundane, but you're right. Like, learn their name, because it's important. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. And, like, anyone does. Anyone wants to feel that way.
And, like, to Aiden's point, too, it also is going to depend, I guess, what the team history has been. So, you hear about, like, what they like, their preferences, all that, and it's like we've kind of said it before, like, okay, but have you been winning? So if you get a team that's right. 0 whatever the last couple of years, like, yeah, you can have your opinion, it's totally valid, but we might really have to swing my way, and here's why. But nonetheless,
I think it's kind of seeing what they've enjoyed doing and nothing else. Even if they're losing, it's okay, well, at the end of the day, there's going to be a ton of factors that affect winning, right?
Yeah,
a lot of it's
totally.
like, we're a very small faucet of it's going to affect winning, at least on the skill level of, like, their ability to do this sport.
Right.
But in terms of physicality, you have a lot of control over that. It's kind of like, great, what's been working? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Like, find some things you enjoy doing. And if nothing else, that might help me kind of, like, put them into archetypes. Like, okay, if these people tend to enjoy this, let's, that you can just use your coaching eye essentially and observe and say, well, yeah, that makes sense. You enjoy doing those things. You're almost like you're kind of built for those things.
It's almost like neurotyping, too, without neurotyping, right?
Yeah, you're just trying to get a little more, it's like hidden information, essentially. So you're kind of figuring out what they like, what they don't like, how they like to communicate. You know what I mean? Like, how do they prefer to be, receive feedback? I think it's like a lot of just basic stuff. Like, learn what makes them tick as a human being first, and how they kind of work collaboratively together, and what issues they might have working together. And then kind of understand where the coach wants. Like, okay, like, what's the direction the coach wants? How does he kind of want things upheld? Like, what's their standard that you're going to be kind of coming into? And just make sure you're doing the same things that parallel how they uphold their vision, right? So as long as the vision's very clear, how it is being upheld is clear, and then it can be at the individual level with the athlete, like, how do they like to be communicated with? Figure all those things out before I even begin touching a program, because you're right. Being, feeling seen and heard does increase the value of buy-in. Here's a funny story from just the other day. Like, Jessica is renting out her condo, for an example, right? And she's switching property management companies. So she's, she had a call with the property management company that she's like, maybe going to switch over to. And she was literally just like, hey, like, here's some of the issues that I had with the previous people. And it came down to communication. Like, when there was, like, emergency of the thing, it took me like 3 or 4 days to get a hold of the manager.
Yeah, like, in a lot of situations, that's gonna be unacceptable.
That is frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
Unacceptable,
So
maybe,
like,
if it's a real injury, right?
So she's asking, like, hey, how are you guys going to mitigate that? It's like, well, it seems pretty easy. Like, yeah, like, we'll just, that counts here as an emergency, like, yeah, we no problem doing that. She's like, okay, I just want to make sure, because, like, that was a big issue for me, was the communication. And then they kind of respond like, well, like, it has to be, like, kind of reasonable, like, we have landlords sometimes that, email us 30 times a day. And Jessica's like, well, no, I'm not that extreme. Like, It's just, I want to make sure that there's touch points, anything else, like, just give me a reasonable timeline of, like, when would be good. And essentially the guy on the other end of the line just fumbled the ability to make her feel heard, because then he was just like, well, it's a two-way street. Like, you're vetting us, we're also vetting you. Like, you have to be a good fit for us, And then that immediately just lost it. Like, just like that.
He probably didn't need to say that. Because that's an obviously understood thing.
He did not need to say that.
Yeah.
All she was looking for was just reassurance, like, hey, here was a problem I had previously with the last person, right? I'm simply asking how you're going to help me mitigate this issue if it comes around. Mm-hmm. Like, essentially all she wanted to do was feel validated, like, hey, I feel heard, that this is the problem I'm having, some reassurance that it won't happen here, Like, it can be that simple. Like, even the guy would be like, yep, totally understand, like, that is definitely frustrating for sure. Like, here's our typical timeline for responses. You can expect a response within 48 hours. If there's an emergency, like, here's the number you can call for emergency. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. You could set
That's it.
That's it. You can essentially set boundaries for how that's going to look without sounding like a dick. You know what I mean? But it came down to like you had an opportunity to build buy-in and then just shunt it because you decided to say, well, we're also vetting you to make sure you're a good fit. Like that was the moment it just
Like, yeah, no shit.
It just turned.
Right?
Right?
How are you going to mitigate this? Well, that's the fun part. We're not.
You know what I mean? So naturally, she's not doing that.
Right.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
to tie it back to what we're talking about, it's like someone's like, yeah, I enjoy doing this and this. And you're like, well, yeah, it's all good. But, my way, we have to do this.
Too damn bad.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that one moment, that one sentence where they're just like, okay, fuck it. Like, I'll give you the bare minimum that I have to just so I don't get in trouble.
Right.
Right? So I think, programming aside, I think that type of that type of buy-in and that type of communication is going to set the standard for a healthy professional relationship with the athlete. So at least they feel that they can come to you if they have issues. Like the trust value is there.
Sounds like you're just like literally treating them as a person,
That's
like,
it.
Yeah.
Person
That's
first.
it.
Yeah.
Just
Instead of like a customer, a number, whatever.
Yeah,
Just
it
like,
doesn't matter if
feel like
you're
a person.
if you're the starting, or you're the sixth man off the bench, or if you're a red shirt. It does not matter. Like they're all part of the team. Like it's a collective sum of the team with individual component parts. So it's kind of like, hey, you have things you like doing, you have things you don't like doing. You have a way that you respond better to feedback. Everyone has different things that make them tick. Be a chameleon and try to learn a little bit more about every person. So when things get tough or whatever, like they can trust you that you're going to have their best interest. Even if it means like they don't want to have to do something, like I really don't want to do this, like this is going to be tough, but they trust that, okay, like I'm going to do it because I trust my coach to do that. Like
You have my best interest in mind.
yeah, they have my best interest in mind. Like I'm going to run through the wall for them. As hard as this might be, I'm going to do it because I know deep down they believe that I can do this and they're looking out for me. That's it. It can be that simple because then the rest, like you said earlier, it can be like a very general thing, but execute with intent and purpose and belief. You're going to have 10 times better outputs anyway, which is going to lead to better performance, right? Like that's where I would kind of draw the line in terms of like all the testing, the progress. Like, yeah, there are a lot of metrics. I'm not going to be tied to one singular thing because I know how chaotic things are going to be typically first season. Like a lot of closed chain sports like track or rowing might be easier to quantify, which those metrics will easily be matter more. And then you can kind of pick those things apart. But for most team sports, the chaos is just going to be, if anything, the metrics be used to like gauge fatigue, look at the change in things over time and see if there's any way where we can kind of get out of the valleys at the right time. That's it. That's where I would kind of draw the line, with the program. Just be a human first and stacking brick by brick after that. Like, that's where I would kind of go.
Right.
It's funny, like, even in the past week, as much as it pains me, our head coach from Laurier, he was there 13 years, and he really, turned the program around. Michael Falls is his name. And now the job at Western came available, so he took it, right? And obviously we're all upset, but you're happy for him. He played there. He's like a legendary QB there. It makes sense. It's all good. But I bring it up because, like I said, he turned our program around. We had very minimal resources. We ended up winning a bunch of Yates Cups, more games than we ever won type thing. He won U Sports Coach of the Year 3 times. And I think he's the only coach to ever do it at the same school for football. And the point is, I was reading the article from the London Free Press about him, moving to Western and everything. And the one question, the reporter was like, what are you going to come in and change right away? And, even he had the humility. He was like, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to hit the ground running. But he's like, I'm going to come in and learn how they do things here. I'm going to see how I can assimilate my values here. Like I said, pretty great resume already. He could easily walk in there, kick the door down and say, my way or the highway. Western just had their worst season in a while. It would be very easy for him to be like, this is how we're doing things. But even he had the humility to be like, no, I want to see how I can assimilate my values, but see what they're already doing and kind of find a natural blend. Because obviously they've had success,
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a good example to me. If he could be humble, I hope that I could be humble too, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's diluting, muddling the water where it's humbling is soft. It's no, the coach is still going to make some hard decisions, right?
Yeah.
You have to trust the players, and if you can build the trust of the players and the trust of the team, then they will know that the decisions you make are going to be in the best interest of the team and the program. Even if that means you have to cut a player, or you have to bench a player, or reduce their minutes. You're going to make a lot of hard decisions, and while the players themselves might not like the decisions, I think at least they can respect the fact that at least maybe they can respect that the coach is doing it for the betterment of the team, even if it means them not on it or them not being a part of it. Right. You know what I mean? I don't think there'd be a personal vendetta there, right? Assuming it's communicated the right way. But it doesn't mean you're soft. It means you're humble enough to see where the program's at. You have ideas where the program's going to go. You have some buy-in from the players on how we might get there. Even means we got to make some tough decisions, both individually but also as a team, right?
Right.
I think that's fair. Okay, so let's try this one now. Aiden, what's one thing coaches protect that hurts performance for their athletes?
one thing coaches protect that hurts performance for their athletes. I think, like, as a strength and conditioning coach, you see, or just any coach anywhere?
Sure.
I would say maximal effort 100% of the time.
Okay.
Right? I think it's important to realize that athletes are not always at the same level day after day. You know, you might see an athlete at 100% one day, you might see them giving their best or putting up their best numbers ever, and the next day might be coming in at 60%. It's important to recognize that when they come in, they can still give 100% of that 60%. It might not look the same, but seeing that they're actually giving an effort must be recognized, or you're going to assume they're not giving a shit every single time.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of coaches get caught up in the outputs.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what's measured. You know,
Right.
That's what typically gets the stats. That's what gets them the wins, the losses, and everything else.
See a number going up and down, and if it goes down, they assume they're not really trying hard, they're not doing the right thing, but...
Yeah, it's very output driven.
I think it's out of fear, too, because a lot of strength coaches, that's how they quantify or validate their job.
Right.
Yeah.
You lost every game this year, but the verts went up. What do you want me to do?
Mhm.
I don't call plays. You know, like something like that.
You have something like, hey, look, their back squat went up. Hey, look, their bench went up.
Right.
We lost every season.
You want them to get stronger, bigger. We did it.
You know what I mean?
Like hands off, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
I think a lot of coaches like do put their ego on the line there, and I get it. I totally understand why. It's like, hey, you have to kind of show proof.
Right, like that's kind of in a way your job, right? Like you're really like trying to show improvements in performance metrics.
It's hard to go to like a program and be like, well, I'm here to like just build robust athletes, even if their outputs might not always improve all the time. But like, hey, maybe we didn't have as many injuries this year. But then can you also quantify that was what we did? You know,
because you could have trained them like shit and got lucky.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why they had no injuries. Right?
It's a very like
happens all the time.
It's a very gray area in terms of like how you would kind of dictate what you want to be measured by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to go to an AD and be and let's say the athletic director asks you, okay, Aiden, how would you like to be evaluated for your job? Like how would you want to be evaluated for your performance?
Well, I would say whatever turned out well that year, you know? Like
let me get back to you after the year's over.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you when the
See a retroactive answer. Yeah.
That's good. No injuries. We're like, hey, base me on my injuries, you know?
Yeah.
We less injuries here? That.
The verts didn't go up, the squats went down, but we won a lot of games. You could like spin it and be like, we won because I had them fresh for game day or something.
There you go.
Crap.
What would you say?
Ask the question again.
One thing coaches protect that hurts performance for their athletes.
Like put simply, I'll say their own personal biases.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of time, like it's a blanket statement, but I think a lot of time coaches will train athletes based on their own preferences or their own like dogmatic principles. And so, for example, like super easy common example would be like Olympic lifts.
Yeah.
Do I love Olympic lifts? Yes, I do them 3-4 times a week. I love them. Do I think they help athletes? Yes. Am I gonna force my 14U team who can barely do a bodyweight squat by no fault of their own, or a push-up that like, okay, let's get the bars going, let's start snatching. Well, because that's what I believe and that's what we need to do. Does that make sense? Of course not. And you could apply any other lifting method or tool in there. But point being, I think a lot of coaches get tied or married to those certain tools and methods. Right? We always say the principles are few, but the methods are many. But unfortunately, coaches will get tied to those methods, get married to them, and then feel forced to use them on every single athlete or client they work with. And I think that's where they run into problems.
Yeah, no, that's one of the points I was going to make. They tend to get married to systems. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an Olympic lifting
guy. Are you a
guy.
triphasic guy? Are you a conjugate guy? Are you an omni-contraction guy?
I'm a bodybuilding guy.
I'm a results guy. I don't know.
Yeah, we all...
That's the best kind of coach to be, really.
I'm an N=1 guy.
Yeah, I'm a performance improved guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm a nice guy.
I think people get married to systems because, again, they default back to what they're comfortable with, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a powerlifting background or Olympic lifting background or bodybuilding background, you tend to default back to what you're comfortable with because that's what you feel you can kind of, elevate in.
A, you're good at coaching it. B, the worst statement from a coach is, well, this is how we've always done it. Or like, well, this worked for me, which is great if you train you, but you're going to train other people who are not you. So maybe you're going to have to call some audibles and take some different routes and paths, right?
Yeah, I think it gets tied to both, I think, ego, but also fear of like, well, I don't know how to do something else and I can't get outside this bucket, right? Like, I don't know how to kind of diversify myself. Or I'm not comfortable teaching these things because I'm not really proficient at myself. So it's like, well, if all you have is, a hammer, it looks like a nail. So it's kind of a two-way street. Yeah, like if you have a background in certain things, use it. Like lean into it when it's appropriate.
Right.
That's the question. Is like, when is it appropriate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same
and do
time,
you have the actual wherewithal to decide when it's not appropriate?
Yeah. You know what I mean? And don't try to like put athletes into a mold, right? You're building the mold around the athlete or the basis of the team essentially. find what works for them, and then from there, I think the big thing for coaches that they get lost in, like you said, it is the outputs. They always get caught up in numbers and measurables and always peaking and everything else like that. I'll go a different route just because it has to be different, but I'll say they get tied to like tapers and peaking and kind of not doing enough. And I think that actually hurts performance. And the reason I say that is because you'll see an athlete that there is a time to reduce volume. But I think a lot of times they'll reduce volume, but they also reduce intent because of it. If you let them know, hey, we're cutting things in half today, like take it easy or whatever like that, I think you're kind of missing the point. Like your shoulder's supposed to drive intent. And that doesn't have to be an output-driven day, right? Like there's like what we could say is like input-driven days where there's a time to like bring things back into the body versus express them all the time.
Right.
Because I think that's the big thing is that all these higher intensity days or speed type days, those are things where you're expressing as an athlete. You're giving everything out of yourself to hit a certain number or a certain performance output, right? But there has to be days where like you're bringing things back in. It's like it could be a simple regression, like, hey, we're going to do bodyweight circuits. We're just going to get our heart rate up. We're also going to move in different planes, do awkward things, just like bring something back into the body where you're building tissue tolerance or balance or coordination or a different skill set where it's not costing you much, right? So there's a time where I think it is, you should modify the volume, but then at the same time, make sure it's relevant to the end goal of the session itself. It's like, what is the purpose of this? Like if you're doing like an input-driven day, you don't need to cut the volume by substantial amounts, right? You just have to do the thing to make them feel good again, where they can then go out and have higher outputs once again. But I think we get so caught up in cutting, volumes in half, which there's a time. I'm not saying it's not, but don't miss the intent behind it just because the volume is down. It's like if you're going down from like, I don't know, let's say you're doing like a 4x5 on a regular day, you're going down to 2x3. It's like, okay, then you have 6 opportunities. That's 6 reps. You have 6 opportunities to hammer the intent behind that exercise as hard as you can without failure, with technical superiority, and then you're done. It doesn't mean like dog it. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that they kind of hang their hat on. So we have to always like kind of pull back all the time, pull back. But really, if we haven't earned the right to pull back, then what are we pulling back from? You know what I mean? There has to be a certain tolerance and capacity built up where we've earned the right to kind of pull things back and not substitute the intent for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's one thing.
Welcome to Iron Performance Center, Niagara's home for real personal and performance training. We're a community obsessed with building durable, explosive, game-ready humans. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just training that works. From athletes chasing scholarships, to pros chasing championships, to regular people who just want to feel strong, move well, and stay built for real life. If you're willing to work, you're our people. Our system is simple: smart programming, elite coaching, and a culture that pushes you to levels you didn't know you had. With modern technology and principles-based programming, we track your progress, teach you movement skills, and give you every tool you need to perform when it matters most in whatever arena you call home. Iron Performance Center, because performance matters.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Aiden, what's one thing parents overvalue?
I always gotta go first.
All right, Miles, you go first. Then.
You're getting drilled over here.
One thing's parents overvalue.
Their child's performance coach or strength coach's athletic background.
Okay, that's a good one.
Okay,
Yeah.
because again, we see all too often people who are not certified, not educated, the list goes on, who are providing training, and a lot of it is just based on, again, well, this is what we always did back in my day. They don't know how to actually coach. They don't know how to adjust for different athletes in front of them. They don't know how to do any of the above, but the parents think, well, so-and-so played in the CFL, NFL, NHL, NBA, whatever, so they must know what they're doing, and they put too much trust in that, when in reality, like, we obviously know that's really not. It doesn't hurt to have the background of understanding training and schedule and workload and stuff like that, but I think parents put way too much emphasis on it, where a lot of time guys who did not play certain sports at a higher level actually are some of the better strength coaches, ironically. So I think, keeping it simple, I think parents put way too much emphasis on their child's coach's athletic background.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, parents do that sometimes. It is a common trend. Again, because like you have the flash and everything else like that. So then what would you think they should be looking for then? If they overvalue like the background of like the athletic background of their performance coach, what do you think they should be just kind of shifting more towards?
Two simplest things would be the coach's educational background, which although we know that's not everything, You can be highly educated and you can be an awful coach, totally. But nothing else. At least it shows you have a dedication to your craft and a willingness to learn. So not only your, you have a bachelor's in kin, okay, that's great, but you should also have a ton of continuing education, hopefully. That's happening year over year over year over year. So the education aspect, and then your track record of who actually have you trained.
Bingo.
Right,
Yeah.
that would be my two main things that they should be looking at. Again, those are, I'll admit right now, those two things are not perfect. Right, some people end up training some high level athletes just through association.
Like circumstance.
Just happen to know a guy who's a buddy who makes it big in the NHL. All of a sudden he comes and trains with you, and people go, "Oh, look at you!" So that's not perfect either. But it's one step of being less wrong than just saying, "Hey, you played in the NHL, train my hockey kid," because it's just really not that simple.
Nice.
You're probably doing more harm than good.
Yeah, I agree. I think the track record's the biggest one.
Right.
And within that track record, is there a history of success that matches up with, let's say, it's the kid's archetype? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh yeah, you have a track record. Like if you had a parent of a 12-year-old come in and then you go over the track record, like look at all these college, university kids I got to go pro.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how many 12-year-olds did you get ready for their high school season? You know what
Yeah,
I'm
they're
saying?
not
I
just
think
mini adults.
Not just mini adults,
totally.
right? So I think you have to kind of, if you have a track record with a diverse population, I think it's picking the ones that better
That'd be more
fit.
impressive to me.
Like even within
I think
football,
so.
sometimes I struggle because some parents think I played a certain position. I only train those guys, and that's why I'm always pointing up at the wall. Like, no, there's jerseys from all these different positions, right? So even within that sport, that's something I find myself constantly having to reiterate.
Yeah.
But which is totally fine. But
No, that's
there's
good.
just
That's a good
preconceived
one.
notions.
Yeah, that's a good answer. What about you, Aiden? What's one thing parents overvalue?
Well, I would say just see the parents out there, and then one thing I always hear is it doesn't look like they're working hard enough. It doesn't look like they're getting a good enough sweat.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
And they gotta realize like that's not really what it's all about. Oftentimes when like they're in season, like yeah, they might be working hard, but like it's not really always about putting all the effort you can into their strength and conditioning. They got practice, they got games, they got like so much other shit going on that sometimes it might be worse to see them actually like killing themselves in the gym.
Yeah, it's purposeful effort. It's
Yeah.
purposeful design programming. I had it one time. You'll remember the one lacrosse kid came to the old place like.
Yeah.
And he puked, okay, at the session. Never the goal, and like it was a pretty standard session, but for whatever reason, he puked, and then I had a group of hockey kids coming
Was he the
after.
guy that had chicken wings before he lifted?
Yeah, like
it
was
just chicken wings.
It was just
spicy chicken wings.
because like
Oh,
I don't remember the session. It was like 7 years ago, but it was
man.
I don't think anything crazy. But nonetheless, like one of the hockey parents came after with the 3 kids and said like that guy just puked, and I thought he was gonna give me a hard time, so I said yeah. I said it's not the goal. It happens sometimes, but and he kind of cut me off, and he was like, you got to make my kid puke. And he was like, if you make all the kids in here puke, he's like, people will be knocking the door down. And I said, listen, sir, I'm like, that's really not the goal. Like,
You see how like common that misconception is.
that's
now,
why once you
like,
brought, like, I never thought of it, but once you brought it up, I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea or a great point because, again, parents are like, if they're puking, like they obviously can't work any harder. Like the harder I work, bang my head against the wall, the better I'm gonna be.
Right.
And we know that's totally not the case, right?
Yeah, there has to be. I think it's the education part of it too. And I get the preconceived notion because in certain sports that is kind of like the the background.
There is a time and a place for it. Like
Yeah, to at least get close. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a time and place, but normally in season it's not usually the time or the place. It's
Right.
like if you're on the ice 3 or 4, maybe 5 times a week, you know what I mean? Like practice already, you're probably doing gas or anything else like that. And if you truly wanted to do like push yourself to that level, there's probably safer ways to do it
Right.
than you know what I mean, doing that. Not saying
Right.
it's the right thing to do, but they do value that because they think they associate with my kid is freaking beat the shit out.
Undeniably, they're working hard.
Undeniably, they're working
They're
hard.
trying hard.
to physically see them actually
Yeah,
dying
yeah,
out there to
they're-
know they're
They're
working
getting their
hard.
money's worth. Look at him, he's fucking crawling home, like can't
Yeah.
fucking move. You're like, yeah, but that also comes at a cost.
Right.
You're like, now what? So it's like, is practice tomorrow or next day, or is the game that weekend, 5 days from now? You know what I mean? Like, is he gonna be recovered enough? Does he feel good? And then furthermore, what's that lead to the buy-in for the next time? Especially if he's like a novice in this realm. It's kind of like, who the hell is gonna look forward to doing that again?
That was the worst day of my week. I'm
Yeah.
probably not going back next
And
time.
mom and dad want me to do it 3 or 4 times a
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
16 times a month.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like there has to be like an education around like why do they value that? I think it's asking questions like, well, why do you want your kid so beat up and they you want them to work hard? So they kind of break it down, right? Like, okay, so you think that them puking and everything else or like crawling home is a definition of working hard. It's like, okay, so then what do you value for them? Like, what do you want them to achieve? Like this season or in here, like what's something you want them to achieve, right? Discipline, consistency. It's like, okay, well, if it's discipline, consistency, and you want them to get better at something, that's not sustainable.
Right.
So that right there defeats your argument that you can't do that every time. So that by default means they're not going to show up a day later because they're going to be fucking
That's
tortured.
developing inconsistency.
Yeah,
Honestly,
you're,
yeah.
you're actually fighting the other way. So I think it's education. I think this goes back to like even the things we've been practicing, but it's like you have to go back and ask more whys. Like, well, why do you value that? Like, what's important to you? Why do you feel that way? Why do you see it this way? And then try to paint a better picture of like, okay, so if we did these things, they'd be more consistent. They'd probably get a better outcome. And you essentially leave them wanting more every time, and they're going to be actually more consistent doing those things. And they have the energy and the outputs necessary to get them. Versus you just empty the tank in one day, and now you're not good till another week. You're kind of like, well, it goes against a lot of physiological principles. You want to go faster.
That's what they would say next. Yeah, bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
I can promise you, none of those things are happening when you're
None of those things are happening.
They're not happening.
They're not happening.
They're probably
at
getting
all.
worse.
Yeah, they're actually getting worse. There's nothing in the tank for outputs that are necessary to raise those thresholds.
And then to recover after with.
And to recover after with, you're cooked. It's almost like saying someone that comes to, let's say, you have people that come to the gym 3 or 4 days a week, let's say like 45-minute sessions, 4 times a week. Can you imagine the logic being like, you know what, I'll just cram 2.5 hours into one day and do all my speed work, all my heavy. It's like, why doesn't that work? Well, there's a reason it doesn't work. Physiologically, you only have so much. Your nervous system gets fatigued, your tissue gets fatigued, which means it cannot produce or sustain outputs necessary to raise thresholds.
You don't get to work on that again for a whole week.
You don't get to work on that. You don't get to work on that for a whole week. So really, like maybe the first 20, 30 minutes of your big, long 3-hour session is where anything possible to gain is happening. But then you piss it all away by just beating your shit in the ground for the next 2 hours.
Right.
See how that doesn't make sense? So it's kind of like the same concept. You're like, well, if you get to that point where you're crossing, like if you're throwing up in a session, that is literally your body rejecting something.
Right.
No different than a poison. You know what I mean? It's like the exact same concept. So
I don't mind when it happens to a kid like once every 2 or 3 years. years.
You know what I mean?
Because just so you know what your limit is. I don't hate that.
I'll put the caveat out there. It's like, listen, like sometimes it does happen. Typically we see it mostly on day one. Why? Yeah. For a lot of factors. One of which being it's a new environment, so they have nerves, anxiety. That makes you more tense, right? Blood pressure, all that stuff. Right? You have you're doing new skills, which by default you're learning something, you get more fatigued easily. So all these things come into play. Like you're in a new room with new people, new environment. You've never done these things before. You're learning new skills, right? Music's loud. Like there's a lot. It's a very overwhelming feeling sometimes, and then your body gets sick and you throw up, right? So, but usually that only happens on one day. If it does, every once in a while. And again, we try to like ease into those things. I was like, listen, like this is probably gonna happen. This is what's gonna feel like. So let's just kind of work our way gradually. And usually once the first day is done, they know what to expect. Okay, I've been in the room. I know what it's like. This is now what's foreign is now familiar, and you don't reject it. Fantastic.
There's always usually that like no idea of preparation on that first day as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's gonna be learning, right? You can do a great assessment and everything else like that, so you have a general idea.
On their part. Like they come in like, I got 2 hours of sleep. I just had a pizza. I'm gonna come in here and work out on day one, whatever.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the what you need to know pack. I see.
So it's like there's a lot of factors that can influence that, but parents, for the most part, let's move past the fucking puke till you can't crawl and everything else mentality. Okay, who wants to take the next one? Just so I don't fucking.
Let me hear it first.
All right, fine. What's one thing athletes misunderstand?
How do you narrow it down? Okay, what's one thing that athletes misunderstand?
Yeah.
The fact that they should probably not just copy what their favorite pro athlete is doing in their training and apply it to their own training.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What are you, Wade?
Now you wish you went first.
Damn.
I don't want to take all the good answers. I thought, you're getting crushed every time going first, but...
That's a quick answer, though.
Yeah, I just don't want to give much time.
Well, it's because I'm passionate about it.
It's true.
Yeah.
All too often.
Misunderstand? I would say, like, it kind of feels like I'm saying the same thing a lot, but understand that no day is going to be the same.
What do you mean?
Like, an athlete might come in and, like, okay, I'll go back to outcomes. They might jump on the plates, their numbers go way up, and then come in next day, literally feeling just as good, just as ready, and they see the numbers say the same or go down even. They're like, well, I don't understand. Like, why? What's going on?
Yeah, which then becomes a good education piece from us. But you're right. If we never actually educated them, they would look at that and feel like something's wrong. Or why don't I just linearly improve, right?
Yeah, I would be like, if that was the case, then this would be the easiest job in the world. Like,
yeah, you need a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. They get very driven by the numbers having to increase every time. We see that a lot too.
Usually that's what they come in here for. Like they do want to see numbers increase, just like coaches or parents. But like
they will.
Yeah.
It just is not a linear process or a process or progress. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they underestimate a lot what they can do in a long term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these things do take time, and it's crazy because all the things we as strength conditioning coaches, performance coaches, it's like a lot of these cycles, like the 3-week cycles, 4-week cycles, then they're changing the program again sometimes. Like a lot of times, like these are just arbitrary timelines that on the average might be a good enough time to move something over. Like it's not set in stone. Like for some reason people get so tied, like, okay, 4 weeks, I have to change everything now. It's like, why? If it's working, let's run it back and do it again. And let's define what working is. You know what I mean? Like, what I mean by working is like, if your jumps are going down, let's say you're doing like a eccentric phase or something like that, your jumps are going down, it's like, yeah, my jumps are going like, yeah, but your tempo is on point, your weight's overloaded, great. You're actually, let's run it back and do it again. Let's go to a deeper valley for this. And then we'll come back out in 4 more weeks, right? So it's kind of, let's just set the vision here and say, okay, we're actually not chasing the output things, right? We would actually probably likely see those go down. This is the different thing we're chasing right now. Let's focus on this. You know what I mean? It could be holding a tempo, it could be hitting a certain range of motion. There's so many small things that we can just kind of tie our hat on to actually, as long as it's very clear, right? But it is common that they always get kind of tied up in the output stuff, right? Okay. I think mine would be more isn't always better. I think they misunderstand that I have to be doing more and more and more, right? Like more practices, more games, more combines, more.
You do need more. You need more sleep, more water, more fucking food.
You know what I mean?
Talk about more?
I think especially in Ontario and in the high school age, but the schedules are so rigid and they have not much control over them. I think more games, more practices, more combines at such a young age, like you're really taking away from the ability to physically develop, where you're going to get naturally better by default, right? That does not mean don't practice. It does not mean don't play games. That's not the message. The message is, let's see if possibly there's a time where it's like, are we doing too much in a week span for the age group and for their skill level? And is there a different low-hanging fruit that might be a better attainable object that we can go after in place of something else? So instead of going to, a game every weekend or like a multiple tournament every weekend just because you want exposure, it's like, well, remember, if you're just expressing all the time, right, at some point, assuming your skill is technically optimized, you're essentially just hitting your head on this hypothetical ceiling, right? That's not really elevating the ceiling much anymore, assuming your skill is on point. You're just kind of demonstrating what you only have access to, right? So how do we look to raise the ceiling? It's like, well, a lot of it's going to come down from your physical abilities, right? It's like, okay, can you improve your springs? Can you improve your speed? Can you improve your coordination? Can you improve like your robustness? Do you actually have the tissue to generate these outputs to raise the ceiling? Right? And there's a lot of that at the young age where it's possible. Like that's a really, pretty standard thing at a younger age. Like you can physically develop. You're going through puberty. There's a lot of things you can kind of like move the needle that doesn't take much, just a little bit of consistency and a little bit more physical preparation instead of always looking to express. Right? So I think it's kind of find that balance. It's not perfect, but find that balance and saying, listen, love the eagerness. You want to do more. It's like, but practicing 5 or 6 days a week when you're like 13 or 14, it's like, it's probably not necessary. You know what I mean? Like, you could probably take 2 of those days and do something else. Or if nothing else, like sleep and recover. Have true off days where you can go and regenerate, right? We talked about inputs and outputs. Like those are like input days, like sleeping, recovering, de-stressing, right? Like de-stressing is literally, that is you. That's not being weak or taking a day off or being lazy. It's like, no. It's
opposite.
It's the opposite. Yeah. It's like you're actually purposefully setting a day aside where you have to allow your body to regenerate to then go do it again. Mm-hmm. That's purposeful. Right, but I think it's almost like goes back to that preconceived notion where it's like, if I'm not doing enough, like I feel like I'm not doing enough, totally get it. But again, you'd rather have to pull someone back than have to kick them forward. But sometimes it might be like, hey, like no, take tomorrow off. Like don't do anything tomorrow. Like do what you want to do. Right? If you're a basketball player, like why don't you go like, I don't know, go play at the park or some shit. Go kick a soccer ball. You know what I mean? Like go hang with your friends. Go swimming. I don't know. Like go for a walk. Go enjoy nature. I don't know. Do something. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to just be output all the time. There has to be days where you bring something back into your body so you can actually regenerate to do it again. Right. So that's what I think would be what's a lot of athletes will, I guess, misunderstand really. Let's see. I'm trying to think of this next segment. I don't even know. Okay, let's see. What's one mistake that you would stop immediately in terms of performance? Like, let's say strength conditioning specifically.
My last one would have been good for this.
Yeah, it would have been.
Kids trying to just emulate what they see. Only had a crystal ball.
I'll say this. I'll try. I'll go first. I think overcoaching. I think overcoaching, specifically with like the younger age groups. I think and it goes back to a lot of things, right? You want to kind of keep your cues consistent. You want to keep them, simplified, and let them make mistakes. Like they're gonna fuck up a lot of reps. And I think I tell that to my teams all the time. Say, hey, we're gonna make a ton of mistakes, and I want us to make a ton of mistakes, right? I want to make as many good mistakes as possible, knowing that we will make less mistakes next time, right? So if you're teaching them how to squat, you're teaching them how to sprint, teaching them how to jump or how to land, it's gonna be messy, right? Like a lot of it's gonna be messy. Don't just like every time they do something and just be like, okay, yeah, fix this. It's like, let them go through a rep or 2 reps, and then just ask like, how'd that go? And sometimes you're like, oh, I felt it's like, I don't know, I felt like I landed weird, or I shifted this way, I don't know, felt like I was slow. It's okay, then try this on your next rep. One thing, let them go through 2 more reps and say if that helped. And okay, great, like how'd that feel? Yeah, I felt I used my arms more, but now I felt this. Okay, well, try this now. I think it's people get so caught up in overcoaching, they're trying to fix every little thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, there's tons of value in them learning how to feel.
They learn,
but they can't if you're in their ear every rep, right?
Telling them how to feel, like this is like it's supposed to be feeling. Like let them process what their own feeling.
Yeah,
gotta be a mix of both.
You don't have to fix everything or like come save the day every time. It's like let them become a little more autonomous by learning. Like, oh, I feel this. Okay, so like, what do you think needs to change? Oh, that's odd. Okay, well, what would you change? Well, maybe I gotta get my elbows up more. Maybe I have to like brace more. Maybe I have to like go a little bit deeper. Okay, try that. And let them kind of feel for themselves. Was that better? Yeah, I felt better. Okay, great. Then if that's great.
It's like a path of like self-discovery. You're kind of like teach a man to fish, right?
And furthermore, like if you're always on their ass, overcoaching every rep, like, oh, we gotta fix it. No, we gotta no, a little more. It's like I think at some point too, they become so fearful of making.
They're never gonna think they're doing the right thing.
They're never gonna think they're doing the right thing. Like they have to have the freedom to make good mistakes.
Because you're not gonna be on the ice with them.
Yeah. No.
Or the court with them. So if all they get used to is like somebody force feeding them a cue or an adjustment every single second, then they're not going to be empowered athletes to actually be out on the court and.
Yeah.
They're also going to beat the thing to death.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
They do the same thing over and over with never think it's good enough.
Yeah. I think that goes not just for the weight room. I think that sometimes happens in sport too, right? Yeah. You're always overcoaching a rep, and like it's hard. I get it because like sport coaches have a lot on their plate and they have a lot to kind of accomplish and they want to fix a lot of things. But I think sometimes it's kind of like it's hard to not put them in that box and just kind of hammer them with everything you want to fix. Because again, now you give them paralysis by analysis where they're afraid to make mistakes. Like they need to have some comfort of, I have the freedom to try, fuck it up, and then fuck it up less next time. But if they don't have that trust to do that, they're going to get reprimanded for every little error they make on every little skill they're trying to practice. They're going to default back to what they're good at and only what they're good at. And that might be limited, right? So it's like, I would even argue for coaches, like, hey, if you're teaching them a new drill or teaching them a new skill for their sport, let them practice it in a game and be okay losing a point or giving up points or maybe even losing a game to have them practice in real time. That's a hard thing. It's a hot take, I guess, but it's a hard thing to digest. Like, are you okay losing this game if it allows them real-time practice to practice the things that they just learned this week in, a new drill, whatever, right? But a lot of times we're so busy to win. They just default back to what they're good at, and they may or may not win, but it's like if they learn this new drill, mess it up a few times, but they get better at it, this might actually be the difference maker long term. Who knows, right? So I think just having the ability to not overcoach, maybe be purposeful with your coaching, and then be okay with them making good mistakes, and feel back that they will make less mistakes over time if they have the confidence and the freedom to trust the fact that they can make good mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of funny. Remember Brett Golding?
Yeah.
I remember like countless times in meetings. he did some pretty like unconventional things, I would say, on the field. And like a lot of time in meetings, Coach Aaron would be like, okay, Brett, I mean, if you can stand on your head and block him with your feet, all the power to you. But once you start losing, then you're going to have to do it my way. And it'd be like, okay, Coach, fair enough, right? like
I think it's
little stuff like that.
I think it's like, for example, I love what I'm doing with the volleyball players right now. Like usually their last series is like some kind of like fun gymnastics series, right? It's like the rollovers to stand, or they're doing like little switches or crab bridges or crawls or whatever. It's like those things are arbitrary. Like they're not all going to be able to do like a rollover to a single leg stand. But it's fun to watch them try and like put themselves in different positions and try to get up. They're laughing, having a good time. It's like they know they're fucking it up.
Those are the ones you coach the least, which is good.
Yeah. Like let them fucking let them
figure it
out. Just find a way to stand up.
Teams I work with that have the same thing, like a lot of times, like, hey, you know what? Let's try this again.
Yeah.
Try it again. That's it.
That's all you say. Yeah.
You guys know how to say it. You guys know how to do it. You know what I said last time? Try it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. If like somebody asks like, well, what am I doing wrong? Be like, just really stretch as far as you can. Just throw yourself as far as you can forward. If you get up, great. If you can't, help yourself up some other way.
Yeah.
Just get up. Yeah. So it's like letting them be creatively to figure out the solution to their own problem.
Yeah, it's a good mix. You're not going to be creative with the bar on your back.
Yeah.
But you can be creative with this. You get a good mix of
those are all things that I would say are more input. You're learning coordination, you're learning balance, you're learning how to maneuver in different positions that, it's not going to maybe happen on the court directly, but the other correlation is going to be you're teaching freedom of movement. You're teaching them how to like solve problems really quickly and adapt really quickly. That all translates to another skill they have to enforce. So why not?
It's cool. There's a cool series right now on Instagram. It's Vernon Griffith, and then I think her last name is Benetti. I think her first name is Molly.
Yeah. Griffith's good.
Yeah, but this Coach Molly, she's kind of running the session, and like she's putting Vernon through her warm up, and she's with South Carolina women's basketball. And the warm up, like, we'll have to look at it after. It's pretty cool. But she's like, okay, so essentially, like, I'll have the girls run and jump over this box for 5 minutes straight, but like you can't do the same jump twice.
That's funny.
It's like parkour almost.
Yeah,
like, and then I'll have them do this other crawl. Let's say 5 minutes of crawling. Can't do the same crawl twice. And like she just kind of goes through it, and so there's a good mix of structured, this many sets, reps, intensity, bar on your back, like all the classic stuff, which is still super important. But then she also has some exploratory options
how
too.
can you overcue that? Like there's a new
You
thing
can't
every
because
time.
she doesn't even know what they're gonna do because they have the autonomy to do
Right.
whatever they want. She's like, you just can't do the same thing twice.
I think it's undervalued, really. Like, looking at the stuff we're doing right now, like you kind of look at least for my programs, like my B series is typically like the structured, like output driven stuff, right? Then there's some fun stuff in the A series and the fun exploratory stuff, like the input stuff, exploratory range of motion, exploratory movement, input, low force stuff, where it's just like, this is a figure it the fuck out series. Literally, it's all it is. Like, what's the series? What's the theme? Figure it the fuck out. It's like, hey, you have to roll and stand. Okay, find a way to roll over and stand. Hey, you gotta do a switch in midair. Okay, find a way to just hop and do something and catch yourself this way. Just fucking, that's it. Have fun with it. Right? It eases the tension. It teaches them how to be coordinated. They learn how to problem solve. They have a good time with their team doing it. They laugh. You know, the energy is better.
You physically see it. You see them like relaxing and like enjoying the session more.
Yeah,
which have more control.
Before going
over
to
it.
practice is a great thing, right? If they kind of like just, you know, we already got the hard stuff out of the way. It's like, hey, we kind of ramped up. We got the hard shit out of the way. Now we get to kind of like do some exploratory stuff before we have to ramp up and go to practice again. Why the hell not? Be creative, have fun, like find a way, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to respond and figure out how to solve problems in a game anyway. So why not figure out how to solve problems in the weight room?
Right. That's what they say about a lot of good athletes, regardless of sport. Like, oh, he or she is a good problem solver.
Yeah.
So it's just another opportunity to practice that.
Yeah.
Adaptable, yeah.
Yeah. The best
Mental
athletes
muscle, right?
learn fast. They adapt fast. Same shit. So that would be my mistake. I think goes back to the overcoaching. It was a long-winded mistake.
No, it's good though.
Gotcha.
'Cause
Yeah, I like that one.
that's a good take home.
I would say mine. Getting too excited about where you want to end up. If that makes any sense, you know, like we might be at one point and I want to get to point B, but getting too excited about progressing and getting there, maybe not as fast as you need to, but looking towards the next thing constantly.
Yeah, like too focused on the outcome that you forget the process.
Yeah,
right?
like I think being more in the moment and seeing where they're at and seeing if they need to stay there longer and longer and longer, and that's okay.
And celebrating and reinforcing the actions that will get them to the outcome instead of just the outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think like really just the classic thing of a journey on a destination.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, just kind of like always having the destination in mind and forgetting about where you're at right now, like really the journey.
Nice. Very
Profound, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very wow. Philosopher.
Stoic?
Yeah.
Is it stoic?
Yeah, stoic.
That's a Autumnal magazine, right? Yeah.
No. the daily.
That sounded so fucking autumnal.
What's that? Daily Stoic. The Daily Aided.
The Daily Aid.
Yeah.
The autumnal,
Yeah.
not winteral. All right, what's yours?
What's mine? I mean, we just went through. Okay, let's move on because really my last question would have been better, or my last answer would have been better for it.
Okay,
Anyway.
we'll kind of wrap.
Phone's
it.
ringing too, so we gotta check it later. I'm hearing it.
Yeah, that's all good. That was pretty much all the segments we had for this 52nd episode. It was a journey. Everything really came down to that, you know. So we'll call it an episode, guys. 52, a full
52.
year.
We'll call it an episode. We'll call it a season.
Call it
Call it a
season.
year.
Call it a year.
We'll call it a year. We'll call it that. It was fantastic. We haven't missed a week yet. I'm excited for what's to come. I think, you know, it's crazy to see how the podcast has grown. And for our viewers out there, for those that listen and kind of tune in on a regular basis, I'll say regular. I don't think anyone's tuning in every week. But if you are,
Hey, shout out to
fantastic.
the ones who do, though, you know?
Yeah, hey, I'm sure, hey, if you're a subscriber, you're in the Cool Kids Club, right? Like, we appreciate you. Next thing we would ask from all of our listeners is reply back and give us some things that you guys want to hear and learn about, right? If there's topics, if there are points of view you want to discuss, if you have like guest suggestions, we are open to feedback. We'd love to hear from our viewers and our listeners, anything else like that, to just help us keep growing in the right direction, make sure you guys are getting the insight that you guys want to hear and learn more about. We're always open for that. We have rants every week, as you guys already know, and we're going to keep doing that. Like we enjoy doing this shit. We love putting out content like this that you guys might, you know, find some impact that helps your own training, helps your own decision making, and maybe just helps your own performance or fitness, whatever your North Star might be. So keep tuning in. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, right? Subscribe to all those pages because you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest every week. And just be part of the Cool Kids Club, autumnal, for our podcast. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. One season in the books. Well, tuning out. See y'all next time.
Peace.